Hello, everybody, and welcome back to That Milan Podcast. Martino Puccio, Matt Santangelo with you guys right before Christmas Eve, right before Christmas Day. So if you're celebrating the holidays, Merry Christmas. And exciting times. Hopefully you guys are all having a nice, cozy, enjoyable time with your families. And if you don't celebrate Christmas, hopefully some of the stuff with Milan going on right now isn't ruining too much of your mood. But again, please subscribe to the channel. Please give us a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. We always appreciate the support. As we really this is pretty much the final episode of 2025. So it's been an incredible amount of support from all of you guys. We'll see if we're likely going live after the Verona match, which is another 6:30 a.m. wake-up call. Our Aussie friends do not feel any sympathy towards us, nor did I expect them to. But yeah, any other things before we get into this, Matt?
Sure, yeah. Just to echo the same things that you just mentioned. Merry Christmas if you enjoy. Happy holidays. Have a great new year. If you're seeing this episode after the new year, maybe you're kind of shutting down.
Those are some loyal people then, yeah.
I know. Some people go and they just completely shut down. They go into hibernation, to spend time with their family, which I highly encourage you to do. So again, thank you and the entire Milan community for helping this channel platform grow as much as it has in 2025. We're hopeful and very much looking forward to a stronger 2026 for the club and also for our That Milan podcast nameplate. So a big thank you to everybody.
Yep. And speaking of 2026, already the first move of the season or the year, excuse me. Niclas Fullkrug. We had seen him arriving, and we'll pull up the video from Antonio Vitiello, but a loan with option to buy. The buy options, Matt, we were just talking about before we went live, are varying. Di Marzio, I believe, reported €5 million. And then I think either Moretto or some other sources had around 13 to 14
million. I saw.
So, I mean, it's pretty substantial difference, to be quite honest with you. But the rumors are also stating that it's a couple years added on to the deal if Milan do decide to trigger that. So, yeah, I mean, let's just hop right into Fullkrug as really just this overall option. You and I have discussed this. We had the short form videos. We even touched upon it lightly, I believe, on a recent podcast. For me, this isn't surprising. I think anybody that really follows the club and watches how things go knows that this is ultimately what was going to happen this January, simply because they're never really that team that spends money. That's why last January was so shocking when you saw all of those signings. But that was really a push for top four. Milan are in a much better position this year. For me, I get it. Low cost. This is fourth option, really fifth option if you include Santi Jimenez in this, who we won't see till February, Matt. Listen, I know what happened at West Ham. I think we all know it. If you know the player's profile, what he is capable of bringing to his side, none of it really made sense with West Ham. Largely falls on him, but also that's a really bad situation over there. That's a side like really trying to stave off relegation. I don't think a lot of players can survive with that, but also at his age, being benched by a 37-year-old Callum Wilson is really not a good sign. So what are your overall thoughts on this deal? I'm disappointed, but not surprised. This is kind of the camp that I'm in, but he just needs to kind of do the bare minimum, and that's kind of just score a couple of goals when he comes off the bench. So what are your overall thoughts on Niclas Fullkrug signing for Milan on loan?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to come on here and say, that I'm warming to the deal, and all of a sudden I think he can be a big time answer to what we need and our problems in the attack.
Right.
As I tweeted out late last night, if some of you guys caught wind of it and you were kind of engaging the conversation, I said that, like I do with every signing, I'm going to back the player because I think that's in the best interest of the player, the club, and what their ultimate goal is, right, is to win football matches and to, get top four, get a Scudetto, right? Obviously, I'm not sold on the move. I think we all kind of discussed this signing in the build up to this before it even went official. It's not official because we haven't gotten the official confirmation from the club themselves, but he's done the medicals, he's done everything. It's only a matter of time, right? I think for me, it's not frustration and anger with the player because, as we mentioned in our previous episode, West Ham are cellar dwellers. They're a team that's sitting in the relegation zone. He's not playing. He's on the outs. It's a team that really probably doesn't fit the way he wants to play or can play based on what we've seen from him in previous years at previous clubs. Look to the management for this type of signing because, as I tweeted out, we've spent almost 80 million on 2 forward players in 2025 in Santi Jimenez and Christopher Nkunku. They have not a single goal to their name in Serie A this year. So what do? We go out and get another player who has not a single goal to his name this year and has only scored, I think, 3 goals in a span of a year and a half at West Ham.
Correct.
It doesn't give you confidence, right? We all know that. But direct your frustration with management because this deal will be even more scrutinized if Milan somehow miss out on top 4. Yeah. They miss out on the Scudetto by, a couple matches here and there, where if they had an impact player and they were aggressive on the market and went and got a guy that can bring you goals with more certainty, that could have changed the momentum of their season. So back the player, guys. Don't go in the comments and start harassing the player. He's going to come here. He's going to try to produce. He's going to try to revitalize his career. Yeah. This is a big opportunity for him, right? There's a reason why he was saying no to multiple German clubs, for what I'm gathering, to go to Milan. He's going to walk in and immediately be the starting striker you'd expect, right? Because he's available to play immediately. Is from what
I would say main striker. Starting is kind of interesting with Leao.
Well, the main striker in the sense of.
Well, you said start. You said starting. That's why I just wanted to just so nobody's semantics.
He might. I mean, if he's the only guy and it's not working with Nkunku and Leao still kind of making his way back.
Well, Leao's back in the training. I get what you're saying. The overall point here, and I think this is where we as fans lose out on because. You know how you do this thing all the time when you're talking to fans and you're like, okay, if you want a player out or if you want a different player, you have to give me a solution, right? So if people and fans mostly are saying, we don't want Niclas Fullkrug. Okay, who's your option, guys? Realistically, not because if we want the higher standards, you and I and other people want Moise Kean, other options like that. We all know in our heart of hearts, that is not an option in January. The options in January for a club like this, with the way they operate, are very few and far between. So Niclas Fullkrug, one of those options that's being brought to the table, I have a hard time being excited about this.
Yeah.
I have massively tempered my expectations for what I expect from him. Do I think as a whole, if I look at the positives, right, if we try and check off the boxes here, I think him playing in Serie A is better for him than it is playing in the Premier League. Mm-hmm. He's playing in a better team than what West Ham are. And I think it kind of stops there. For me, the fit tactically right now with the 3-5-2 doesn't make sense because of the 2 players that are really unbenchable in Leao and Pulisic. If healthy, you cannot sit them. But in patches and moments in games where Milan have brought on 3 forwards, right, where we saw recently, they bring on Loftus-Cheek with Nkunku and Pulisic, right? Those are 3 attacking players because of the other midfield options that they had on the pitch. Allegri is going to have to really push towards that direction of, does Fullkrug end up playing with Leao and then Pulisic? And Milan primarily, Matt, are a counter-attacking side under Allegri. Fullkrug and his legs, is he there to counterattack like that? My guess is no from everything that I've seen. Maybe build up play a little bit better with him, or hold up play, excuse me. I don't see this guy being a great presser. He's not in great shape, particularly, especially compared to what Santi and Nkunku can bring to that in terms of athleticism. They're far superior to him. So for me, it's going to be a lot of dead ball opportunities, a lot of being in the right place at the right time when Leao and Pulisic do make those sort of opportunities or create those opportunities for him. That's what he's just going to have to do. Just find a way to score the goals.
I also think it's they're looking for a threat from corners and to put balls into the box. Because
exactly,
this is
the
a
dead
team
ball.
With Milan that swings in a lot of crosses. They don't have the personnel and the guys in the box as far as aerial presences are concerned.
Just Pavlovic.
To get on the end of those. Well, I mean, but he's not like.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's
they don't have those vulturistic profiles that can say, hey, I have guys in Bartasagi and Salamakers, who I can use to swing balls into the box. I need someone to get on the end of those, like Giroud did for us many times, and obviously Ibrahimovic. So I think that time will tell. I mean, I think that what's fascinating about all of this is I wonder what's going on through the mind of Max Allegri, because it's one of those things where, he wanted his type of striker in the summer. So then they got him a 40 million player that he really much can't use and could potentially be on the outs, which is something that I mentioned in previous episodes. Like, he might be leaving. Like, it's a possibility. I'm not saying it's going to happen because it's hard to move the money and the what we tied into him.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're getting another forward that, like, does Allegri really want him too? Or is this more of the management not giving him autonomy on the market and saying, well, you're going to have to play the guys we're giving you? Again, like, it's going to be very fascinating to see, because we haven't heard much of, obviously, Allegri when it comes to the market, right? He hasn't said anything. He's not going to really say much.
No, he's not going to rock.
When the Fullkrug gets announced, again, it's going to be very interesting to see the words and what he comes up with, because they're going to ask him probably ahead of this Verona game in the presser and say, like, oh, like, the market, like, what do you think of Fullkrug? What do you think of whoever? And again, like, he was very honest when Nkunku came, saying, like, oh, like, I got to see how I'm going to use this guy now. Pretty much, kind of in jest, taking a little bit of like a joke about it, saying, like, oh, you got me this guy. What am I going to do with him? I don't need this guy. So again, we'll see. I mean, all we can do now is watch the games, right? And dissect it. You guys will see us, after the new year, once Fullkrug's have integrated and playing, and we'll be able to tell you, yeah, we told you so, or man, this is a masterstroke on the market by management. So we'll see.
I mean, masterstroke. I mean, it's just all kind of funny because it's just a low cost move with low risk, right? It's just another 6-month option. If it works out, they'll go with it. They had similar business last January as well with the João Felix and the Kyle Walkers of the world. To me, I get it in the sense of where are the market options that Milan are capable of pouncing on.
I saw Gabriel Jesus was one, but
and that's like sort of a BS rumor when Arsenal are already thin and not scoring many goals, and he's got an injury record, and his his wages are where it's at. Like, we all know that's BS, and I think those are more links, because then you'll see those quotes.
But it just goes to show you, like, because there's not that many concrete options for Milan to go after, they're pulling names out of nowhere. Some of these reports, like, it's like, Jesus might be a guy.
Because it's just. You know how it is. They get a list of players who are likely on the outs, that are forwards on certain teams that are of certain talent quality level, and they say, like, this guy's on an expiring deal. Yeah, maybe we'll link him to Milan. Xerxes, he's been linked to Milan in the past, right? Likely going to Roma. We don't really know. Even those options, they're just not there. And guys bringing up Dusan Vlahovic, he was not going to be an option with his injury either. There was just limited things for Milan to do, and I think probably the thing that bothers me the most about recent comments made just by upper echelon people within Milan came from Allegri after the Supercoppa losses, just about, anything we want to do, we have to make the Champions League. We have to qualify for the Champions League and move forward from there. I hate the message all the time. Even if, like, they're okay and satisfied with top 4, that's one thing. I don't want to hear it out of your mouths. I don't think that should be a thing aimed at for the club publicly. It should always be.
And that's why I think is right, because I said this yesterday too, is that no one really expected Milan to be this close to the top of the table, having the results they've had against the bigger teams coming into the season. I don't think anybody expected that. The expectation was, in my opinion, based on how the market was carried out, was we need to get top 4. That's the goal. Let's get Allegri in there. We know he gets results. It may not always be glamorous. It might not always be champagne, but he gets the job done. We'll get top 4 with him, right? That was the goal. Yeah. Now Milan are punching above their weight based on the results they've had against some of these bigger teams and where they're positioned currently in the table. So now it's like house money, right? Like, when you're okay, I got this extra money to kind of quote unquote spend that I didn't have before. I got points in the chamber that I can say, hey, like, I got a little bit of room here to give. Right. So we don't have to be that aggressive on the market. We don't have to take that many risks. Whereas last year, they were quickly, hey, we got to get rid of Fonseca. We got to get a new coach in there. Hey, we have to get in João Felix, Kyle Walker, Sotil, all these guys. We got to get them in now because we got to save our season. And they only wound up finishing 8th place. So when you kind of throw everything to the pot, it makes sense that because they're in a pretty safe spot as things currently stand in the league, and they're sniffing a title at this point in time, 1 point off Napoli. They're thinking, we don't have to be that aggressive. We don't have to go and blow this whole thing up like they did last year, where Morata was gone, the coach was gone. They had to shake up the entire team to get players in there that can make a difference, right? So they're going with, I think, a safe dart throw guy on the downs, on the decline in value, that nobody probably wants. It's probably his biggest last chance here. He's going from West Ham to AC Milan, and they need goals, and he hasn't been scoring them. If he don't produce, obviously it's going to be an absolute debacle and chaos around Milan with the fans, because they're going to be looking and saying, like, we were this close to a title, and this is who you brought us, type of thing. Even if they don't have the names and they can't give you a definitive name that would have been a better solution, a more realistic option,
they're gonna have to get
fans do not care. They do not care, and I don't blame them.
It's gonna have to come down to luck and this working out in Milan's favor. That, you know, it was a fluke at West Ham, and he's a lot closer to the player that we saw at Dortmund and Bremen than we saw at West Ham. The only thing I can say is he's going to be playing around a lot more talent. It's really up to him to put himself in a position to succeed. Someone who did not put themselves in a position to succeed during his entire Milan tenure is Divock Origi. His contract is now terminated. He only had 6 months left. Anytime you hear people who are anti-Maldini and his regime at Milan, you always hear about him and Charles de Ketelare. This was a really bad free transfer. Origi was basically at 5 million gross on his wage bill. Currently looking at Milan's wage bill, which I was just looking when I posted the short form video on Instagram and TikTok, he would be getting paid just as much as Christian Pulisic currently. Think about that, guys. That's one of the higher paid players within our squad who you couldn't even go and find him on the wage bill the past 2 seasons because he hasn't been playing for the club. That's how bad it's been. This was colossally bad. It had backfired on all levels. But now that deadweight is gone, this does matter for a club like Milan, that these salaries are now disappearing from the wage bill. For me, you know, whatever, rip the Band-Aid off, got it done as quickly as they could, I guess. He was just sitting there collecting that paycheck, no problem. Finally gets that termination within the final 6 months. Really, the only thing I remember from him, Matt, was him scoring that great goal against Monza, and that was it. He didn't do anything else for Milan. Completely useless. So just quick thoughts on that before moving on to the next subject.
I mean, like, he's been out of my head for a while now, right? But it's like you look, and every time you look and say, like, oh, we're actually still paying this guy to not play for us, right? Like, he's just kind of sitting there like he was last. I mean, he hasn't been in the plan since 2024. So this guy's been collecting the bag, to say the least. And look, I mean, in his defense, why wouldn't you? Because where are you going to get that money, right? No one else is coming in to say, hey, we'll match your wages. Come over, play for us. It's probably his last big contract, right? And he's thinking, I'm going to cash in. I'm going to milk Milan for whatever they're worth on this deal. And then I'm going to leave and see what my options are. Even if it comes at the cost of, again, not playing top football for years, and again, having very limited opportunities to go to after this. But yeah, I mean, good riddance. You know, I expected a little bit more from the deal when we got him. I didn't expect him to be a superstar, but this is a player that was on Liverpool. He scored some crucial goals for them. He had a reputation around Anfield, around Liverpool fans, as being a guy that is a clutch player that, you know, was able to give some pretty big moments and pretty big goals, you know, in some of their title-winning campaigns. And yeah, he just didn't do anything of the sorts at Milan. So yeah, good riddance, and I'm just glad this whole experience is over with.
Yeah, 2014 really his breakout at that World Cup, and then got the move to Liverpool, and obviously had those huge moments in the Champions League semifinal. I think the derby against Everton as well, where something like fell off of the post and into his lap, and he just headed it home. Did none of that for Milan. So moving on there. Theo Hernandez. This one is pretty much a bigger subject, and a lot of things that I knew about personally that I was told from people who worked at Milan and knew Theo very well. And I think I told you this months back, but none of this was on air because the person who was talking to me, it's just more of a discretion thing. But now that it's out in the public, it's easier to discuss without having that being traced back. So what I was told months ago, when this move was made by him, not by him, by Milan and Theo moving on,
Mhm.
that he was told he had no spot in the squad. He was not welcome back. And this had nothing to do with his wage demands and what he wanted, and all these rumors about him wanting triple the wages and all this money is false. And we're seeing similar things happen with Magnan right now, by the way, as well, that Tade had a dispel. So you can kind of gauge where this is coming from. And his comments in this article or interview were pretty damning about a specific person within the management that I've heard multiple times about when it comes to the football side of things. Now, I'm not here to single this person out or pretty much attack them, but there's a trend here. And I think it is really bad in terms of the ethos of the club and what was happening last year and prior. We also saw comments from Sergio Conceição kind of
Mhm.
alluding to the same thing about instability, something that we have discussed multiple times, whether it's been with Kush, our guests, Ali, yourself, the videos I've made individually separate from the podcast about the instability and the lack of footballing people that we have at the helm at the club in this current moment in time has been proven by the actions, by the words of players and people who have left the club and what their comments are after the fact when they were with this regime. Theo Hernandez's comments do not surprise me whatsoever. I do not find that to be an excuse, and he even didn't make excuses for the mistakes he had been making the past couple of seasons. The red card against Fiorentina, the sending off against Feyenoord. He knew all those things, and obviously that's kind of why I wasn't banging on the drum as much, because usually when professionals make mistakes like that, Matt, no one feels worse than that player.
Yeah.
And it's bittersweet to kind of hear this now, but Milan have no choice but to move on. However, those comments still make me pessimistic about the future because of who's in charge, what they're going through in their decision process when you're phasing out a player of this talent level, and what kind of environment you create for players like that. Because he's not the only one to kind of leave on these terms. And we might see it with Mike Magnan as well.
Mhm.
What did you make of all these comments from Theo? Nothing overly surprising on your end, I'm sure. But does the confirmation of it make you more frustrated?
For sure. I mean, this is, piggybacking off his farewell message when he posted
Right.
his Instagram post, and he kind of was very honest about the entire situation and how he, was obviously going to leave Milan, where, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he was saying, there was a lot of things that were promised to me and that didn't transpire. I feel like I've given a lot to this team. Like, he was very honest. Like, he showed his love and praise for the fans and everything he was able to achieve. Of course, he had his little picture with Maldini. Obviously, he was influential in him joining Milan.
Mhm.
Again, it just kind of reaffirms what we all know to be true, is that there is some rotting within this team. And again, results can kind of paper over that sometimes and mask some issues within the team, right? Because if you're winning, okay, fine. Team Milan are in top four, or they're the point off the top of the table. Everything must be great. The team must be great hierarchy-wise. The players must be very happy. The contract situations, right? That's how the media works, right? That's how they perpetuate, whether it be a positive or negative in the media and what they put out, right? When things are going poorly for Milan, how many times did we see that during the banter era, where it would be like the worst information? It would be slandering the club, slandering players, doing all these things. When things
Right.
are going well, man, they want to ride that coattail. Milan's on the high. They might get this top player. This player might sign now. This player might get a renewal. So again, like, it's very, I always stress this when we're talking about not just the market, but also things like this, where you're getting one side of the story, right? You're getting one side of, oh, Theo, he wanted 4 times the money. He wasn't even making it possible for Milan to get a deal done. Same thing with
Right.
Mike Maignan, right? So there's a trend here. I do think what is very disappointing in all this is the way that Milan is becoming a club that now is growing this reputation of not being able to take care of its good, faithful servants, players that have given a lot to this team, players that have won trophies here. Theo was one. Davide Calabria is another. He spoke out, and he was not as open and honest, but he pretty much was hinting at a lot of the same things that Theo was and Sergio Conceição were hinting at. So again, the way you view Milan, the way you view the media, the way you view the narrative, it can be very leaning in one way or the other. And as I mentioned when Theo left, and I'm going to say this again, both could be true, because people were in my comments saying, well, we're better off without him. I don't know if that's the case. I know Davide Bartosaghi is playing extremely well, and he's a Milan youth product, and we're seeing results, and great, it's fantastic, right? But it does bother me as a Milan fan, first and foremost, over a content creator or whatever, to see players that genuinely have love and affection and admiration for this club be treated in such harsh ways. It's one thing to be treated in a way where, hey, you want 8 million, we're only able to give you 5. We're not going to meet there. We're not going to meet. We're not going to be able to get a number done. Best of luck, right? We've seen players leave this club, right? Theo wasn't the first one to leave, big marquee name to leave. He won't be the last.
No.
It's just the way things are being carried out and conducted. And Mike Magnon's is the latest situation. If you're Mike Magnon, you're thinking, I came to this team, I helped us win a Scudetto, I was goalkeeper of the year, I was massive for this team. I'm a leader, I'm a captain, and now you're rug pulling a contract from me. So again, to your point, it feels like there is a trend here. And it is worrying, because we have guys like Pulisic coming up on renewal talks. Rafael Leao, you have guys, Tomori. I know Salamaker just got his deal. But again, it leaves me wondering how the relationships are amongst those players with hierarchy, with management. And if those players can't get deals done, and we're going to start going down this road where we're going to be mistreating players that have given everything to this team, that doesn't sit well with me.
Well, of course, and absolutely, and I think anyone who's a fan of the club and follows them would think the same. I want to just mention that this is what happens, and this is, again, beating the dead horse here, instability within management. When people walk out the door, who assumes their position, right? So your manager, for example, like a manager in business, you're at your job, ends up leaving, right? And their higher up person above them is supposed to replace that manager, and you, the employee beneath that manager who had just left, needs to know, where do I go if I have issues? Who do I talk to if there's something that I need to discuss? That had never changed. They had just gotten a sporting director in there, and the person controlling all that stuff has zero experience in that field when it comes to personal relationships that you're having with players. That matters, right? That type of personality that you have with Maldini, and it just doesn't have to be Maldini, right? Because Tade seems to have pretty decent relations.
Even predates Maldini, Martino. Even Galliani was like very well respected, right? When you saw Galliani around, there was that level of respect between director and player, and Maldini was there when obviously
because he was never trying to cheap out those people. Right.
But there's a difference too when it's someone gets into a role like this on who they know versus what they've achieved and their accomplishments and their emotional attachment to the team. You have lifers like Galliani, you have lifers like Paolo Maldini. And I'm not saying that you need to have guys that have been born, bred, and come through this team to be in positions of power, but it has a different meaning and weight and pull and power when you're having that conversation face to face with a player about Milan, and you're trying to sell them on the project, sell them on what we're doing here, and sell them on the vision and the club culture. And you're not someone who is born and bred in that culture. You're just someone who's in a position that got hired to do a job.
Well, this person's supposedly born and bred in that culture. Supposedly they're a big fan. They're not. They're doing their job as, really not trying to be rude here, so I'm not going to say what just came to my mind. These are business people. These are private equity CEOs.
Correct.
That carry the water for Jerry Cardinale. And this is where Jerry kind of escapes the criticism that I'm very annoyed about when it comes to accountability, because Furlani is the face, right? But Furlani gets direction still from the owner and the board. He is the one who has to carry that out. And he doesn't care because, He comes from that business finance world where it is far more ruthless than what we're seeing, a soccer player not having the ability to extend his contract like it's been with Theo in this situation. But again, the culture, the environment, why so many star players and players like Magnan were willing to come to the team in the first place, other players willing to extend in the first place, was because of that environment that Paolo Maldini created. It goes beyond what we saw on the field. And right now, when you have a rocky dressing room, not that it is right now, excuse me, when it was last year, when Theo was still there, Fonseca, Conceição, it's multiple people. When you hear both of those managers going on to say things after the fact, and the player like Theo saying, well, there's things there that, people were telling me and a single person was saying they didn't want this. Why? Why are you the single person when everyone around you, including the players and the fans, are all saying, no, that's a poor decision to make? This isn't about Sir Isaac Newton talking about gravity, where he's not crazy because everyone else can't understand him. Forlani's in the wrong here, okay? The guy is wrong. When everyone is telling you something, and this isn't like the financial decision in terms of like, oh, Theo was falling off, he was playing for it. Yes, he was. But at the same time, when he is actually willing to stay and get a reasonable contract, and you're still pushing him out the door, when Mike Magnan is coming in and saying you rescinded an offer for him, and now we're also hearing rumors about Christopher Nkunku, who is, in my opinion, not going to be sold in January, but just the sheer thought about it, just the sheer, we're going to have to backpedal a little bit on this. We're not really sure if we think he could stay here long term. So you went all in on a move financially that will cost you a lot of money in Christopher Nkunku, but you were hesitant to pay players that have proven themselves at this club and not demanding a lot of money. Mike Magnan asking for $5 million net is nothing. That is nothing for one of the top goalkeepers in the world. But you were willing to go and nearly set a club record for a deal for a player that didn't have a guaranteed starting position. And then you look back on it and say within a couple of months, yeah, geez, I don't think this is actually going to work out. We have to make this move now or consider making a move because financially, this won't do well for us. It is funny how they continuously cut corners and making poor footballing decisions that end up having them sit there and say to themselves, we're in a weird financial spot. Why is that? I don't understand. Maybe because you're ruining results on the field, you're making the squad weaker, and you're just playing this game of, I don't know what you would call it. They're essentially gambling on players all the time, right?
And the thing
Hoping
that
they
too, Martino, not to
go
cut
ahead.
you off,
Go.
but I think
No,
again,
go
we
for it.
could talk all day about this, and we have.
Right.
It's there's rope that you can be given. There's benefit of the doubt that can be given if you've earned it. If your body of work, your experience at this club in this sport warrants it, right? And what I mean by that is take the selling of Sandro Tonali, right? So you sell a player like that, you let go of Maldini. Okay, you can get me to buy in and be supporting of these decisions if you've shown to me that you have a body of work and an extensive period of success in your role. And you saw the result of what selling Sandro Tonali meant and firing Paul Maldini meant. A lot of those players, anyone watching this can't even name if they're even on this team anymore. That's number one. This past summer, you sell Tijani Reinders, who just signed a new deal, right? So now you do something like that again, and you bring in a slew of new players, and it's been a mixed bag.
Right.
Yashari, jury's still out. Luka Modric, free. You didn't discover Luka Modric. Newsflash, right? He's a star. You don't get really much credit for that.
You're lucky they were great 25, 30 years ago when he was a kid.
Right. And Tare was able to leverage that relationship and be able to kind of do his thing as a director, someone who has succeeded in his role before in this league at Lazio. And you see the kind of the rest of how things are played out. This management hasn't made a lot of good decisions that you can say, yeah, we're doing this, but we've done this, this, and this. They've shown us they can take care of this, and they can take care of this club, and they can get this club back to where it needs to be. So again, people were making this we're still bringing up Maldini, we're still talking about Forlani thing. No, I want someone in there that's competent, that can do the job and to get Milan where they need to be.
Right.
Milan. I don't care if Ronald McDonald's the director and we win a Scudetto. I do not care.
Yeah.
That's the point here. You're coaching Milan. You're not coaching some random team, third, fourth division. You're coaching Milan. If your expectation is to be in top 4 and maybe Europa League and get players that are below grade, below Milan standard historically and what they need now, then I got news for you. You might be supporting the wrong club and you might not be really truly grasping and having an understanding of the history of Milan. So that's where the frustration comes from. I can tolerate if you saying, hey, we're not going to go after Theo. We're not going to extend him. We're not going to extend Mike Maignan. But we have a proven track record of being able to go into the market and make the right acquisitions to replace those guys. And they don't. And that's where the frustration, the concern, and the anger comes from. Because you have guys that are in positions kind of tearing this team apart, both with their brand and their name. And you see people, and again, just to go back to Fullkrug for a second, I see people, man, it really shows how far Milan have fallen, huh? They're going to a guy that hasn't scored a goal and for 18th place West Ham, and that's the guy they're bringing in. So again, it's image too, right? Where you look at this team and you're thinking this image is being kind of tainted on top of sporting wise failing to meet expectations. It's everything.
And it's funny because of the reasoning behind getting rid of Maldini supposedly was poor market strategy, right? So if you're thinking of selling Theo Hernandez and you don't want to extend his contract, how many times did I say, why are you selling with 1 year left on the deal? You're completely tanking the value. You could have gotten close to 50 million, probably more with 2 years left, if that was your decision. Mike Maignan, same thing, holding out for this 30 million euro price just to keep him on and let him leave for free the next year, and your goal is Champions League qualification. Embarrassing. That is embarrassing strategy. How does that make you the most money long term? You're basically almost breaking even most of the time. And to the people who I understand and I get where they're coming from, and logistically, to an extent, it is accurate that Forlani's overall job and what Cardinale hired him for and what he's supposed to do is keep Milan in the green. If you look at it like that, then sure, he's doing a good job. He's doing what he's paid to do. And that means to not bankrupt the team. That means to keep them somewhat competitive and make sure that there are no red columns on that balance sheet. And the funny thing to me is, wouldn't you get angrier if you could have had more green in the balance sheet, but you didn't because you don't know what you're doing? They could literally be fantastic if they actually stuck to their guns and kept the people that made them a lot better than what they used to be. We are not too far removed from where we were barely qualifying for Europe, where we were struggling in Europa League group stages, early rounds of the knockout stages as well, where we were getting embarrassed by Arsenal, all that kind of stuff. And you're sitting there seeing to yourself the amount of growth that was made just from qualifying from the Champions League initially and building off of that. It's like they built it and said, we don't want to go higher. And it's embarrassing to me because the potential of the club alone, just purchasing the stadium, is going to bring you over 100 million in terms of revenue, just from basic competition alone. Can you imagine if you actually tried to put a winning product on the field that made you a better squad guaranteed? Because the cutting corners and taking risks financially are a little different than not taking huge risks financially, right, Matt? Where they're adding up 50 million or so, right? Well, hypothetically, where the 50 million worth of players, and how many of them are going to end up being good? Not many, maybe 1 to 3.
Look at the first market, right?
Exactly. That's my example that I was thinking
right?
of.
Like Musa, now he ain't even playing at Atalanta. So he's going to come back to you, and you're going to have to now probably sell him again or loan him out again.
Correct.
Right? Look at the players that we bought in last summer, the summer before. How many of these guys have become integral to this team and the long-term project? And I use the word project very loosely.
Right.
So it's like, again, it's very odd.
And then they do well, and then they sell them.
Yeah.
So the only ones that you keep that are good, and now I'm not saying it's going to happen with him, but Christian Pulisic still has not extended his contract. That has not been done.
Nope.
I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying. But, at least they stop rolling the dice on cheaper players for a couple million to see what they got here. So supposedly, according to multiple reports, Andre Kostic of Partizan Belgrade in Serbia, as you can see by the title here. And this is Sempre Milan have their articles on this. This is an 18-year-old forward that is, from what I understand, under the same agency as Dusan Vlahovic, who's obviously a Serbian striker. And Matt, he's turning 19 in January. I know you tweeted out the picture of Vlasic. I think either on your account or the Milan podcast Twitter. I don't have anything to say or know about this. And some people that I follow that are Serbians and obviously follow the league closely are saying this is a talented guy. Listen, when you come to Milan, you're going to be 19 years of age and you're basically, I don't know, potentially somebody for the future. This is a roll of the dice thing from Milan once again in hopes of, hey, if we spend $5 million for this guy, he ends up being relatively productive or a decent player. We either keep him for the future or we sell him off for a big profit. This is all this is.
That's all it is.
And I'm not even hoping Kostic is or isn't a good player. I'm just sort of like, how am I supposed to feel when I know what the motives are from this management? Am I supposed to feel excited about this? I don't know. I'm not saying Kostic will or will not be a good player. I have zero clue. I'm not an expert on Serbian teenagers. Sorry. So when it comes down to this is another risk for Milan, and they're sprinkling a couple of million euros to get this deal done. If this is where Tade thinks that he can operate and have some say and get a player that he wants in, so be it, I guess. I don't really know. What are your thoughts on this? I know we're kind of largely in the same boat here. If it's like, okay, we don't really know much about the kid. People say he's talented. He has 8 goals in 20 games and 528 minutes in Superliga.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want from me to say on this? This is a roll of the dice. If it works out, great. If not, what's a couple million to Milan, right? This is how we operate.
It feels like Marko Vlasic 2.0, and I hate to be the bringer of bad news and to look at everything so pessimistically and from a negative lens, but that's what it feels like, right? When Milan brought in Marko Vlasic some 3-4 January markets ago, everyone was thinking, oh, 4 to 5 million, this kid must be pretty good, right? He must have some future. And this was before Milan had the Futuro project, right? And we didn't see him anything. I think he's playing in Aberdeen. It's got in the Scottish Premier League.
Last he checked, yeah.
Right? He's 21 years old. He's not like he's a stud or a revelation anywhere, right? And then you see guys like David Odogu, who I just put out a reel on, where you spend 7-8 million on him and he's 19 years old, and you hope, to your point that you just alluded to, that he becomes good enough or features enough to show some things, have some flashes of good play, and then he's either a part of your team or you sell him for double the money. It feels like they're trying to pick out another potential Malik Chow situation, where Milan got Malik Chow for 7 million, 6 million.
Yeah, I mean, Salamakers was cheap too, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And Malik Chow wound up actually, because of one reason or another, his talent shined through. We had injuries. We needed help. We couldn't spend a ton of money. He was thrusted into a role where he was able to start, prove himself, and Milan sold him off this past summer to Newcastle, where he's been mostly good, from what Newcastle fans are saying. That's what these feel like. But again, you look at the seriousness and you gauge whether they're a serious team. And I can give you this I can lay this out for you. So Odogu, a center back, we needed one. We got a 19-year-old for 7 to 8 million.
Yeah.
We haven't seen him play other than 11 minutes against Lecce in the Coppa Italia. He's played for Futuro a bit in Serie D, right? You're going after another young striker when we need one striker that can help us now, right? And he costs us 5-6 million.
Right.
You go and get Conte de Winter, who, again, at a different part of his career, but a little bit more established, has played in Serie A for 23-24. You kind of throw all that money in, And couldn't you just have gotten like a more serious player as a central defender that could help you now? Or a
No,
striker?
no, because that
Help you
would be
now?
too simple. It would
So
be too
again,
simple.
like that's what I'm talking about when it comes to like the approach. We're approaching the market like, no disrespect to anybody that is an Atalanta fan or fans of like teams that don't really spend, but like they're really good on their scouting. We're acting like them on the market. We're selling a guy for 40, we're getting a guy for 5. The difference between us and those teams is those teams actually identify the young player. He's good. They develop him, they sell him, and they get another one in, and he produces. We sell a top player, get a bunch of young guys, very few, if any of them, pan out, and now we're sitting here with nothing. That's the problem. And that's where the trust and lack of ambition comes in. I'm cool with getting young players that can grow with us, but they should not be, it should be in addition to. It should say, hey, I'm going to get you your Dusan Vlahovic, but I'm also going to get a young striker for the future. Hey, I'm going to get you your Odogu, but I'm going to go and get a Buongiorno that can help you now.
Right.
That's the problem. So I'm looking at all these guys that Milan are getting, and they're just kind of collecting young players. Sovano Voss, another one, couple million. We haven't seen a lick of him, right? So it's head scratching the way we go about trying to get young prospects and use the algorithms and use our scouting acumen and all these sorts of things. And we're a good place for young players. Where is the young player that we have bought, that's developed, we've kept, and he's become a very good player? How many of those have we seen?
It's just a guy that we extended. That's about it. And that's not even under this management. So if that was like kind of the point, there has been none. And I'm not really surprised by it. Yeah, I mean, it just is what it is. It would be very funny if both of these forwards that they sign this January window end up being really good, but I doubt it. But yeah, it's just. But you're right though. Like when it's him and Odogu, you're kind of looking at 13 million right there. The 40 million with Nkunku plus, you're suddenly looking at 53 million for a couple of players that are inexperienced and nobody thought would actually be a good fit to begin with. It's just really maddening. Instead of like, oh, Granit Xhaka said he'll play for us and he only costs 15 million. And it's like, oh, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. We don't want to do that now. We don't want to start making sense. We don't want to start making moves for the club that would help us in the short and long term. No, we just want to take our risks and then say, oops, we don't know what to do. We have to sell your favorite player now.
But it's another thing too, where you can look at it come from a couple of different ways. It's like it's like a win-win for management, right? Because you get a young player for 4 or 5 million, and he winds up kind of following the path of a Malik Chow. We look like geniuses. We got this player for 5, 6 million. We sold him for 40. We told you we can find good players. But young players have more resale value. So if he shows little glimpses, they can sell him for 15. See, look, he was worth it. This was good. But again, like what's the end game? It's all finances. It's not even to like win a trophy, right?
It's not even to sell the team for a profit.
Correct. That's what it feels like. Whereas in previous years, where it's like, I almost rather you go after like the young player that has shown you like enough, maybe not multiple 3, 4 seasons, but has shown you enough. Okay, this kid's good. When we took the gamble on Rafael Leao, perfect example.
Right.
Where it's like it cost us quite a bit. And at the time when we got him, I was like, I don't really know much about him. But you heard a lot about him. We had to act that way on the market because we couldn't afford the high-end players. Ismail Benacer, a good young player that wound up being very good for us, helping the Scudetto. Like, I almost rather us say, hey, instead of 5, 7, 10, why don't we just go and get the 30, 40 million young, really good phenom prospect that we all know is good?
Because if it were to backfire, and this is like people who are scared, right? Like hesitant to take a shot. It's just funny to me.
Enzo Fernandez, right? Like that type of player.
Well, because the Botman, it just doesn't stop. That's also like there's so many obviously nuance points to it because of like, oh well, Redbird didn't officially own the team. Elliott didn't want to invest more into it, and they only had the Champions League money. You got to sell players to do that, and like Maldini's just like, all right, I inherited a terrible financial situation. I qualify for the things that you asked me to qualify for. I even won something and there's no money. Okay. Moving on. Verona is the final match of the 2025 calendar year for Milan. An incredibly turbulent year, Matt, I should say, in terms of calendar. I'm so happy this is going to be over. This one's going to be at the San Siro, and Hellas Verona are sitting 18th, Matt, which is in the relegation zone. Milan hosting a relegation candidate at San Siro equals drop points most likely. Oh, by the way, it is a noon game. So Milan with 10 days of rest, right, since their loss against Napoli in the Supercoppa semifinal in Saudi Arabia. Leao expected to be back. I would assume Yusuf Fofana will be starting alongside Modric, Rabiot, with Bartezaghi, Salamakers. We could see Leao and Pulisic start from minute 1. We'll see how Rafa does in training. He still has a few more days. So that was pretty much the good news about losing the Supercoppa semifinal, was just the amount of rest that this team was afforded. I think it's huge for them. Obviously, no Santi Jimenez and Kunku will be in there. Fullkrug can't play for Milan until January. Get 3 points. There's zero excuse. Again, I don't know how many times we have to say it. I don't really have anything else to say but get the 3 points. I'm not 100% sure if Gabbia will be back for this one, Matt, but we sorely, sorely need him for this. Milan got to get 3 points. I'm hoping it is one of their victories they could have, because they have too many draws for the top 3. They're 1 point off of Inter. So yeah, Milan, Verona, what are your predictions for this one? I think could be a 2-1. I don't know. Milan have been bleeding and conceding way too often as of late, but if they get their main starting 11 back in there, I'm a little bit more optimistic about it. But guys like Orban and these other players for Verona are no slouches. I think they're plenty capable players.
Yeah, I mean, look, I try to give the team the benefit of the doubt, but against smaller teams, I just simply can't right now until they prove it to me that they can get over the hump and can handle these teams. I see a draw. I don't see this Milan team being a killer in front of goal where they need to be, because they're going to get chances. They've created chances. How many times have we seen them in the box? They can't convert. If it's not them failing to convert and leaving goals out on the pitch, then they're like good for like a mistake in the midfield or giving away a ball or a defensive lapse, right? And it's like, we haven't really put together many clean performances lately. We've gotten wins, and that sometimes can mask problems, right? And that kind of comes with the territory of what Allegri's football can tend to look like, where it's like, you don't maybe score a lot of goals, but you defend well. And then it's like, we didn't really defend that well, but we scored a goal enough, and that's enough. We haven't played many clean games this year that I can really point to, aside from maybe the ones that everyone knows is like the big moments where we've beaten, the Inters and Napolis and those teams. This game is tricky because Verona need this one. They need points any way they can get them.
Mm-hmm.
And when teams simply need points and not necessarily a win like Verona, they're happy to sit here and say, hey, we'll come in here, we'll play with the defense lined up, and we'll just let you have the ball. And Allegri likes that. We'll take the ball. Milan will swing it back and forth. Correct. And now it's up to them to find the players to unlock Verona, who they don't score a lot of goals, but this is also a team that I'm looking at it right now. They've conceded 22. So they don't, they're not like a lay down defensively. Like they probably have an idea of what they are and what they're not. And they have some guys in the attack too that can cause damage to Milan on the counter. So yeah, I see this being a 1-1 game. I really just don't feel that great about this game, on top of the fact that that time slot is not very favorable for us. We don't really do well. We just kind of wet ourselves against Sassuolo, right? So it's like, until they can show me that they're able to batter these teams that they should be battering, and a team that's trying to win a Scudetto should be taken care of, I can't give them that benefit of the doubt. So I'm going to go 1-1.
Yeah, I get it. Because we see it time and time again. There's no way Milan can drop points like this and that. I would say the positive note in all of this is that they do have their best players, presumably for this one. I think that's a huge boost. I think they're a lot better when Milan are fully healthy. That has been a very rare thing this season. Not even to make excuses. I just feel more confident that way because Leao is such a demon in that regard that he is really difficult to handle. And if Pulisic is able to play off of that, they have been two of the better players within Serie A when on the pitch this
I'm
season.
just worried that there's not going to be that space that a guy like Rafa needs and wants for him to do and inflict damage that he is capable of inflicting.
I think he is so dangerous in general that he is going to be a problem. And I can't believe I'm saying this. I really can't. But I think Fofana, as of today, is a bit of a boost in the midfield in terms of ball winning. And that off
Isn't it
ball
funny
work.
though too how things work in football, right? Like again, I'm not trying to sit here and say I'm the biggest supporter of Fafana as far as what he brings, but isn't it interesting where it's like he's played all these games to start the season. Milan, in spite of him or because of him, are getting results against
Right.
teams where maybe they don't expect to get results or fans don't expect to get results. And everyone's saying, yeah, but he's the weak link amongst all of this. We need to
He
get
is.
somebody else in. Okay, then he gets injured, banged up, and now he's not playing. And all of a sudden, the midfield's not looking as good. Modric looks a little tired. He doesn't look as sharp. And it's like, oh, thank God Fofana's back. So it's like, again, like the sport's very funny in that sense because it's not so simple as player X is not that good, so we don't need him.
It's
No,
just he's
player
a
X brings X, Y, and Z,
right.
and he helps other players
Right.
do their
Right.
best and get the best out of themselves.
Exactly the things that Fofana is good at helps and complements a Modric and a Rabiot of the world, as opposed to the things that he sucks at, which are just a very funny thing because the things that Fofana are good at largely go unnoticed because it's dirty work. But the stuff that he sucks at is right in front of your face.
He could sky a chance.
It's skying a chance that's 30 yards out when he shouldn't be doing that. It's making a incorrect pass when he should be making a simpler decision. That's where he's glaring. But yeah, listen, I hope so. Getting 3 points and allowing me, everyone else, all of our wonderful listeners to enjoy their new year would be fantastic. Again, guys, if you have not already, subscribe to the channel. Please give us a like and comment on the video. Leave us a review on Apple or Spotify for 5 stars. Please follow us on That Milan Podcast on Twitter. Matt did a fantastic video, his first banger on Instagram. So at Matt_Santa22 over there, at Matt_Santangelo and AC Milan Bros on Twitter. Just always great content and work there. The TikTok continues to grow. We hope to have more and more people on that platform. Again, shout out to Stinker and all the help that we have had in 2025. We hope to be doing a post-match review this Sunday after the Verona match. And we'll see if we get one in before 2026 happens or any of that. But we greatly appreciate all the support. Matt, any final notes before we sign off?
Yeah, I just want to thank, as I mentioned off the top, you guys for helping us grow so much in 2025. Obviously, last year for Milan was not great. We fell short of many objectives. We missed out on Champions League. There are a lot of frustrations with how things have gone, but you guys still showed up. You guys still are in the comments. You guys are still joining the live streams. You guys are still helping us grow across all social channels. And that, as long as we're doing this podcast, as long as we're creating content, simply will not go unnoticed and not go unaddressed in a lot of these episodes. So we want to thank you guys for helping us grow as much as we have this year. If you guys enjoy what we do, feel free to subscribe, like, leave some comments. Like, I'm trying to be more active too on Instagram and just reply to a lot of people. And, the community we've grown here, the community we've grown on X, I'm trying to kind of carry that over and give you guys that platform as well to like, hey, like, we're not just those type of guys that are just not going to respond to people when we're just trying to farm engagement. Like, we'll talk, we'll have dialogue, we'll like have that civil discourse, hopefully civil with everybody. We'll continue to grow this community with you guys. So a big thank you to everyone for all we've achieved in 2025. And we hope you have a happy, healthy, prosperous 2026 along with us and Milan.
Yeah, they better, and Italy better make the World Cup. Other than that, we like to thank everybody and hopefully more exciting guests very soon that we have in the works. So stay tuned for that. We still love doing our duo format that we've been doing for St. Angelo. It's approaching 9 years now, just so you know. And that is crazy. That is crazy. 2026 will be 9 years. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.